Okay.
Liz, that was good work getting the same fabric or this
I
or
know. I know. I mean, that was quite amazing. Did you watch
yeah.
the video?
No, not yet.
Okay. Um,
I want
but
to see the real thing.
what's also interesting, like when you see it, because it's this woman from Prell and she's in the factory in France and she shows the old books that they have, the old order books where they have swatches of, the original fabrics and sort of, who bought them.
Wow,
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
it is.
So I was in I don't know, I see hi Peggy, but
Hi.
maybe
Hi, Peggy.
Rita will join in a minute. I was in Trieste last year and that
Mhm.
was run by Austria for a while. And
That's
they had the house that was owned by the brother of was it Frederick of Austria? In the mid to late 1800s. And he had gone off to run Mexico. I had no idea that Mexico was actually run by Austria for a while until
okay.
he was assassinated. And in the house, they had wallpaper or fabric on the wall that commemorated the idea that he was going off to Mexico to run it on behalf of Austria. And after he was assassinated and his wife went mad and was committed to an asylum, a mental institution, I don't know what one says anymore, in
Yeah.
her native Denmark, they left and other members of the family came to use the house, they left the wallpaper up there or the fabric talking. And I just thought, wow, that would be the first thing to change.
Yeah.
But no, it's still there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my big takeaway from that. That, and I had no idea that Mexico was run by Austria. It was for a short period of time, but that just does not seem like a winning combination.
Well, it's kind of interesting, some of the misadventures that various European countries have had, either
Yeah,
in Europe or other parts of the world. But
yes, for sure.
uh,
All right. Well, it's 6:35, so I guess we should just get started and Rita is here, so that's good. Can you unmute Rita, Kevin, please? Just because we keep everything. Oh, and Sahara's here. Great. So you could just unmute everyone. We're really pretty informal here with a few people. So thank you everyone for joining. This is the February 2024 meeting of the CB8 Arts Committee, and I'm glad to have everybody here. We wanted to start by doing a debriefing of the craft show that we had a couple of weeks ago, and I'd also after that like to pick a date and talk about what we're doing with an art fair and anything else in June for the art fair and the rest of the year if we're doing other things. So welcome everyone, glad to see you, and let's start with the debriefing. Kevin, over to you.
Uh, the debriefing in what sense?
Well, I think we could talk about the schedule and we could talk about any comments because you are very involved in the trenches kind of way.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I think that the show it was very well run. I honestly didn't, during the show, no one really complained to me or anything like that. I remember there was this one issue about the position of tables. So, maybe in the future we better position when artists do come, they know which way their table should be facing, so we don't ever run into that issue again. But I don't seem to remember any particular issues during the show. Um, Prior to the show, when I was cataloging all the submissions and stuff, a lot of people had questions about things like Wi-Fi, parking, and general access, the address, and everything like that. So um, I think moving forward as we plan, we should keep the idea of questions that any artist may have in the back of our minds, and send me the answers as soon as you get them. If you think that would be a question an artist would have, feel free to just let me know, because that's really useful for us. So I think that's all I have. Yeah.
And for us too, is it possible for you to keep the questions that were asked as a kind of database? Because you have those questions and answers for this venue in terms of parking. You could just jump in, Rita. You don't need to raise your hand.
So everyone is unmuted for this. Everyone, I turned on the unmute yourself. So anytime you want to mute or unmute, you can do that.
Thank you. So we could have the questions as a general set of questions for any venues for anything. But we could also use them if we're able to use this venue again and if we have a craft fair in February. So in other words, it will give us ideas of questions artists might like to ask so that we have the answers in advance, but it also gives us the questions and the answers specifically for this venue if it comes up, if it comes up again. I know maybe things like bringing a support dog may not come up again, but at least we have it if it does.
I do remember one crafter saying that she liked the venue and she asked if we can consider as a future venue the schoolyard outside of the gym. So right next to the
Right.
gym we used, that huge sort of schoolyard
Right.
next to it. Yeah.
We could.
Did you want to use it for an exhibit or for her car?
A future art show.
When the weather is better.
Okay.
Well,
Definitely.
we had a dance program there a couple years ago, and it wasn't a good spot for it. Nobody could see it. It was sort of down below, kind of buried. It wasn't open and available to the public as is the usual outdoor spot on 91st Street that we've used. So I wouldn't think it would be better than the spot we normally use, which attracts a lot of foot attendants because people are out walking around and can see it.
So is it also, if it's not level and there are steps going up or down, that presents an accessibility issue? I don't remember whether there is or there isn't.
Yeah, and it was so buried, just almost not visible from the street. And even though we had music and all that, it wasn't drawing any public attention. It's also mid-block, so it's just not a very visible spot to have people. I think there were steps, but the worst problem was that it wasn't visible to the public.
It wasn't pretty. It really wasn't. The gym was pretty in comparison.
Yeah.
It's also the gym was very large and held all of our crafters and could hold even more. There were accessible bathrooms, there were vending machines. The Parents Association was able to set up. The gym worked out great, completely accessible. No needing to have people put up a separate ramp or run a wheelchair lift, for instance. And so that made it really, I think, valuable. And people were able apparently to find it, which is a good thing.
I have a question for Kevin.
Mhm.
Kevin, this is our third event. Have you kept the exhibitors, are their emails separate, or is it all into the big batch of people that we get to sign up? I have a reason for asking that question.
So I can speak for June 2023 and this most recent show. What I do is I have everyone who submits, whether or not they're accepted, whether or not they confirm or confirm to attend or attend at all. I keep everyone in what I call a master's list. It's very long. It has artists from all across the city who have at some point in the process been interested in attending one of our shows. If you want the specific, uh, the specific people who attended, those two specific shows, I can also get you that. So that's what
But
I have on record.
I don't want it, but I thought that perhaps since we've had three events, that do we want to get any feedback from the people who exhibited by asking a few questions and asking them that they'll just answer it so that it becomes a learning curve for us. I don't know. Do you think that's
No, we're doing that. We're doing that, Rita.
Oh.
We'll be sending out a survey with some questions. We'll just be working on preparing it offline.
Right. So Rita, I sent you earlier before the meeting a copy of that survey. So if you want to, read through it and, give us any feedback. It is not the final survey. I apologize for, sending it to you guys so late, right before the meeting, but, hopefully you guys can look over in your free time and let me know what you think of the questions. Because I think
I've talked to Valerie after you and I talked, Kevin, so it's all okay. Rita, if you have any questions to add to it, by all means, include them so that it can be as thorough as possible.
I haven't seen the questions, so I don't know if I have anything to add.
Okay, well, when you do, if you do. That's fine. Kevin, so we have a schedule that we went over and created it a couple of shows ago. That I was reminded by the board office, it's important to try and adhere to that. So we could just go over it now. And then I know there's a coffee representative here to talk about coffee at the next show. So we'll get to that in a minute if that's okay, or a few minutes if that's
I think
okay.
it would be a better idea to have Chris speak now, just in
Okay.
case. Yeah, because when we talk about that document, it might take a while. I don't want him hanging out
Okay,
with
that's
listening to
true.
all the technical stuff. So, Chris, I'm going to unmute you right now.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for
Hi.
having me.
Thank you for initiating this.
I'm happy that it sounds like there may be an opportunity for both of us. Quick background on the company: we're based here on the Upper East Side. I live on 95th Street. We
Where's your
do
coffee?
so
Do I-
we have no coffee shops,
Oh, okay.
and that's kind of part of why we're starting these sort of conversations, because we are roasting weekly in Brooklyn, renting time, and we're approaching the market as a wholesale coffee roaster. And yeah, the among other things, our time, but the expense of a lease is not worthwhile for us, and we're finding opportunities to interact with the community through events like this. We did one in Greenpoint almost a month ago, event called Green Pointers. That was a very well attended crafters fair, and I kind of said, well, that was great. How can we do more of that? And saw advertising for your most recent event, It seemed to be really well advertised, encountered it a number of times, was unfortunately out of town when it happened, so I have no firsthand experience. But I thought maybe there's, a few, I don't know what kind of concessions you might have, but we are pretty well prepared to come in with very little needed to be able to sell coffee. We can talk about what that would look like on your side, in the best way, and how we could work with that.
Okay, is when you say sell coffee, do you mean prepared coffee that people could drink at the event, or are you just talking about bags of beans or ground coffee?
It would be both. We would be existing as like your concessions, meaning we would primarily be there to serve coffee to people who want to drink coffee while they're shopping.
I might be your biggest customer, but okay.
Okay, I'll have a cup ready for you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Add a
yeah.
charge, of course.
One fun tidbit, not super necessary to mention, but there's actually quite a few studies by very reputable institutions that people spend about 50% more when they're caffeinated, when they've been drinking caffeine. So it can
Okay.
kind of have a secondary function as far as, helping your vendors succeed. And you might be surprised to find the booths that come after the coffee booth do a lot better sales. So yeah, we're set up. We sell whole bean coffee, but in this sort of setting, that's it can be something that people are interested in. We do create a very nicely packaged product, but it would be mostly, we can also, because if we're the only one too, we can also have bottles of water, and that sort of thing, so that if people are looking for that.
Yeah, we've
get
had an
water.
a local ice cream, independent ice cream vendor come, and Chick-fil-A has generously provided at no cost sandwiches for all of the crafters or artists with enough
Oh,
for
nice.
yes, very nice for the
Yeah.
board members and other volunteers. I think coffee would be nice. I'd like to know from the committee and anyone from the public who's here, any thoughts on this? I think having it makes it festive, it makes it nice for people, especially outdoors. I'm always a little nervous about indoor spaces, but I think anyway, anyone have Peggy?
I do, yeah. I'm wondering what facilities do you provide for disposal of the cups? Do you have more than one garbage pail? Uh, we would probably need more than one.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's something we could figure out. We've not been responsible for that in the venues that we've been in, as far as like that's just been kind of part of the structures. There was trash cans provided, but that's absolutely if that's not something you already have something to figure out, we could manage that.
It's been very venue dependent. So and the one we've been using in the spring, which is James Cagney Place, it's a demapped street, 90th between Second and Third,
Oh
is a
yeah,
street. So I don't know
great street.
what they yeah, it is what they and it's their
We
show.
have, we have
Nice.
some
What
garbage,
Rita?
cans on the street that are handled by RY management, even though the street belongs to the city. So we do have at least one. I can always make sure that there's another one. I would say I can get more. I can get it. That's no problem.
Great.
Oh great.
If I may interrupt, I was just thinking that maybe you can make it into a small booth type of a thing where you have your garbage as well, disposal, and kind of have your what you're giving and make it with like some color so that it stands out with your banner and stuff, and that way it becomes like a whole structure. And there is a garbage can next to it too, so people just see the whole thing in one place, in one spot.
Do you
Yeah.
need
Well,
you-
you'd need more than one garbage pail because people would go up and down the street with their coffee and they'd be finishing it at one side that would be nowhere near where the coffee is being sold. So you'd have to make sure there's the garbage pails along the way. I like the idea that Rita knows of some, but I think we have to be very
We,
diligent about providing them because people will just throw the cup if,
right, there is a city garbage pail at the corner of 91st and 2nd, and also at the corner of 91st and 3rd Avenue. And we have one that's in the middle of the block, but I can get more from my building for this particular.
yeah, that might be good because the garbage pails that are there now might not be visible amid all the booths and art being displayed along the street.
We
We've
have
had-
we have a lot going on 91st Street, especially with the bike rack.
Yeah,
Christopher, maybe you can have like a couple of yours with like, if they are in color, you could have it right at the beginning of the road on 91st and 2nd, and then one further up where the, the vendors end, and have one there. And if it is in a bright color or something with like some logo or something, like, some kind of a thing, then that way you can make it into two spots that are colorful, that benefits you because it shows your visibility. And I think, right? I mean, Rita, it benefits us, Becky, as well, that there will be more garbage cans. But if they're colorful, then they will show and people will know, hey, throw it here. And it also gives your brand visibility that this is something provided.
Christopher, will you need those? Those are good ideas, Sahar. Thank you. Christopher, do you need electricity?
Typically, yes, we do. I would say in the summer, the next installment will be summer months, correct? Or spring?
We've done it in June, early
In
June.
June. I would say electricity would be great, but in the summer, probably not necessary.
You do
In
ice.
fact, we could just say not necessary because it'll mostly be iced, and the hot coffee that we'll need will probably be we have 5-gallon dispensers. We will not need more than that of hot coffee. I'd be surprised if we needed half that much. So we could say no, don't need it.
Because I don't, indoors, there's electricity, I believe, but
Mhm.
outdoors, maybe not as much. We try and have music, use amplifiers, try and have a microphone and speaker for any elected officials that show up. But it's certainly something that we could figure out as it gets closer. So thank you. I think it sounds like everyone agrees that it would be a nice addition to the show.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Electrical source, and we can have extensions from that, but that's something that we should discuss as we get closer, and we can meet with the people in my building who know about these things, because they're the ones who turn it on and off, and they know what the capacity is. So that's great for a further conversation when we have to meet with the people.
Well, good. I think this sounds good.
Excellent.
We want to support local places, not chains, and it sounds like it could be really useful. And you'll be able to provide the sugar and the milks and things in obviously in cooled containers, insulated, I mean.
Yes, certainly. Absolutely.
Oh, it sounds nice. I think that would be a very welcome addition. Thank you so much again for reaching out.
Excellent. Great.
I like that idea. So thank you. Schedule time, everyone. You don't need to stick around for this. I don't think.
Okay.
I'll
I'll let you guys get to it, and we'll follow up soon. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
So
Chris.
let's just go over.
Thanks, Kevin.
And thank you, Kevin, for directing Christopher's inquiry. Let's just go over this. Well, you know what? Maybe it's easier to. I know this is a little out of order for the agenda, but I think it's probably okay if we work on a date for June and then maybe could work backwards from that. Kevin, does that make sense? So we could have some concrete times, at least for the beginning, for the idea of when artist submissions are cut off, if we have a second extension. So we've always done for 3 years this in June. Last year it was Father's Day weekend, which I'm thinking maybe it's not the best weekend
I,
to
I
do.
actually agree with you on that because I distinctly remember multiple artists that we accepted could not show up because specifically it was Father's Day weekend.
And with a rain date on Sunday, remember that craziness, Kevin? The day before on Friday with, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? Is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? And all the aggravation the artists expressed. So I think 2 weekends, maybe a rain date a week apart might help because a lot of people can't come on Sundays. So let's talk about which weekend in June.
Father's Day is the 16th of June.
Okay, so that's the third Sunday? Yeah, that makes sense.
We
So we
want
could,
it on a Saturday. Is that correct?
right.
So
Yeah, I think we've always done it on a Saturday. A lot of people view Sunday as family time. So, and Saturday gives them the option of coming in the morning and then leaving for the people shopping. So, why
So
don't we think of a Saturday?
that leaves the June 1st, June 8th, the 22nd, and the 29th.
I will be out of the country from the 1st to the 10th. You shouldn't plan around me anyway, but the first 2 weekends, I wouldn't be able to participate, unfortunately.
So why don't we say the 22nd? Because Father's Day is the 15th. I mean, it's the 16th, and that Saturday is the 15th. So why don't we say June 22nd? Kids are not out of school yet. Parents are still around. I think that's a good time. I would rather do that than later.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds,
later. Sorry,
Um,
Peggy.
no, I was agreeing with Rita.
Okay. Later is a problem for me. And that's the problem also with the rain date of the 29th, but we could schedule it for the 22nd and hope for the best.
Okay.
Ladies, I'm not actually going to be unfortunately there in June, and then mid of July is when I'm returning. So just wanted to mention that. I'm sorry, that's why I joined this committee, because I really love the work that you guys do and like put together, and I really want to help. But I'm going for pilgrimage this year, so leaving in June. So I'm not going to be
When are
around.
you leaving? When are you leaving in June?
So I'm leaving on the 6th,
Oh.
and then the pilgrimage is in the month of June, and then I will head to Pakistan for a bit. So I would be, if you guys were keeping it in July, I would have helped completely, but I know we don't want to do that because schools, close off then.
Yeah, and people are away and it gets really hot and it could be rainy, and I don't think anyone wants to necessarily sit outside in heat. So I hope you have a good trip. The only way around that would be June 1st.
So June 2nd, just wanted to give an FYI. I had spoken with Valerie for that CB8 social that we had last year at my place, and Sunday was the date.
Okay.
This is kind of the one that we had discussed.
So then
yeah.
let's and also Peggy won't be around then. So then let's make it June 22nd. And for a rain date, I guess
23rd?
the 23rd is the day after. What is the rain like? I mean, everything's so wacky now. If it rains on Saturday, people don't necessarily want to. I mean, that was the problem that we had on Father's Day. Maybe it was just Father's Day, or maybe it was because it was a Sunday that people didn't want to come. If we didn't have it on Saturday, they wouldn't have come on Sunday. So, do we want to make the rain date the following Saturday, the 29th? Or have it be Sunday, the 23rd? I have no idea.
I would like it to be the 23rd.
Yeah, because the 29th is into the July 4th weekend.
Oh, it
Right.
is?
Yeah.
And also,
schools out and parents are away. We have more people here on the 22nd and the 23rd.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll see what happens. And again, hope for the best. We'll do the 22nd and the 23rd. Okay, so let's work backwards. Kevin, do you want to post the schedule?
Yes, give me one
Yeah.
second.
Thank you.
1 second, just pull it up. So everyone on the arts committee, I already sent you this in your email, so just check your email. Okay, so I just want to preface preface this by saying this document is mostly for us, the staff. With this previous show, we discovered that there is really quite a lot to do if we want to, organize the perfect show. And we do want to organize the perfect show, but we also have to keep track of everything the committee has to do and the staff can do, especially when we are at limited capacity like we were when we were planning the February crafts show. So the point of this is every week, for example, week one, I would send out at the very beginning of the week a list of things that we are hoping to get done by the end of that week. For example, determining the venue, determining the date. I mean, we already determined the date, so we're good for that. But for example, establishing deadlines for the submissions, if we could visit the venue, determining if that is possible, things like that. So every week we would be sending over one of these emails, and then we'd be checking in at the end of every week saying, hey everyone, have we completed all the tasks for the week? If there are any remaining tasks, they'll be laid over to the next week. And I want the committee to know that this is a dialogue between the committee and the office. So if the committee finds that they can't do something, do a specific task throughout the schedule and they need the staff to do it, then we can discuss that and vice versa. So I know this looks intimidating. I know it looks like a massive checklist, but I want this to be a dialogue between the staff and the committee about what the expectations are in order to organize a perfect show. And so more importantly, we have all our tasks laid out ahead of us, so we don't have anything that surprises us, last minute, like we've had with previous shows. And we also don't want some of this to bleed over to our other, community board work. So that's why we wanted to reintroduce the committee to this baseline schedule.
And that
It should
makes
look
sense.
very familiar to everybody because you've all looked at this before, and Kevin's just gone in and added a couple of new lines that he's discovered as a result of the last couple of shows.
And that's fine. I would add something to it though, which is determine budget, if possible,
So
because
Alita, that is something. So in that thread, that's something you can send as suggestions, so then we can edit this along the way.
oh, all
You
right.
don't have to do this tonight because that would
Oh,
just
okay.
way too much
Okay.
work. But
So
yeah,
then
that's not
let's
my suggestion.
okay, so we'll try and pay attention, all of us, to this. Let's work on the time frame for the submissions then. And I think you've created a really good template for all of the flyers. The only changes really are the date, the venue, all of the dates, and then the little images. So for the craft show, we have more crafts images. For the art show, the visual art show, we have more paint related or sculpture related, primarily paint related images. But other than that, the colors, the fonts, the sizing, all of that is pretty good. And I think the one that we used for this craft show was really good for both the submissions and also trying to get people to show up. So I think that's pretty much out of the way, and hopefully you won't have the back and forth with making changes in the flyers. But let's figure out the submission. So if we're talking June 22nd, I think the first batch of submission should be towards maybe the third week in May. Or maybe the second.
Can we use this? Can we use this diagram that we've already discussed to actually pull up a date that Kevin
Where's
can
the
send you guys
diagram?
all later on?
Do you mean the schedule? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at week 2, complete the submissions one flyer for the first deadline. We need a deadline. That's what I'm asking about. Oh, it says establish submission deadlines for week 1. So
Yeah, if you scroll down, that's actually later on. We've already set up when we think the deadlines should actually be.
oh, okay.
Right. So I would propose to you guys a deadline that makes sense based on this document.
Okay, because we also have Memorial Day, which kind of starts the summer
That's May 12th.
weekends.
That's May 12th. Memorial
That's
Day.
not no, Memorial Day is the last Monday in May. You're thinking of Mother's Day?
I'm, of course, I can't see it. I didn't think.
Memorial Day is the 27th.
Mother's Day is the 27th.
So why don't we do it right after Mother's Day, maybe?
That's the 13th of May.
That Monday, we could do it Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was really, from my point of view, Kevin and Will, I think it was really helpful to have the submissions come in 2 batches to us. Like we discussed last time, which you did for the craft show. I think the people who submit early should know as early as they can, and then we have a good sense for the second batch.
Alright.
As far as our judging goes, can we split the between us so that we don't have a few hours to judge? It's the same eyes seeing the same things. So if you take like 1 through 25 and someone takes 26 through 40, whatever we have.
I don't think that's a bad suggestion. I like to look at all of them, and I guess anyone who wants to look at all of them, and whoever doesn't, that's fine. You don't have to look at all of them if you'd prefer or don't have the time to. I do them in batches. I do like 20 of them on one day and the next 30 on another day.
I don't mind if we have to do it all, but I just thought of, and also before I forget this thought, we had many vendors this past one than we ever had before, because I went around and greeted every vendor and thanked them for coming. Do we want to get something special out to all those vendors that were there and say, this is coming, and telling them now it's coming? Because they have a lot of outdoor craft shows that they go to. So just a thought.
And it's a good thought. I think that we've been seeing the June show as more of a visual art show, and the craft show is more, the February show is more of a craft show. For me, I'd like to keep it that way, but whatever you guys are thinking, I'm interested in.
Well, can I say something? I have 2 questions about the evaluations. One is I'm not quite sure what we're doing with these evaluations. Seems like everybody pretty much gets in if they apply. So I don't even know why we're evaluating them. And whenever I say I don't think this should be in the show, it ends up in the show. And so I don't know on what basis we're evaluating.
Well, it's majority rules on who's coming. If it's an issue that is not aesthetic, we don't vet on aesthetic grounds. We're the government. We can't make our judgment about who's suitable or who's not suitable. At least that's how we've been operating, I think, with advice from Will on that point. So everything else has to do with issues. There were some copyright issues previously. There might be some appropriateness for a family venue kinds of issues, and that's what the evaluations are done on. Rita, if you want to, if everyone wants to split it up, that's fine. I'll go over all of them. If you guys want to divide them in 2 or 3 or however, if
More than splitting up, what it is that we are asking the exhibitors to do something that they probably don't have to do to be in any other.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but when I was on the Gracie Square Art Show Committee, we evaluated people. We said no to a lot of people, and they had to be screened. It was very selective. I'm not saying this should be selective, but I just, if I may just get back to it for a second, I still don't know on what basis we evaluate. When specifically can we say no to something? If it's not judged on whether it's art, then what basis is it being judged on?
Graphic, violent, pornography,
Copyright.
inciting violence, hatred, bigotry. Is
Promoting.
it copyright infringement? Alito was very valid in like flagging that. If they're ripping off somebody else's work, then we shouldn't, allow them to just come in and just hawk, their version of, Campbell soup cans or whatever, right? They need to not be infringing on copyright, but they also, we're not here to say, well, that's graffiti art, so that's not real art. But this is, pointillism, so this is definitely real art.
But if someone is stabbing someone with blood squirting in a painting, that might not be appropriate. Or if someone is using hate speech in a piece in a painting, for instance, that's not acceptable either.
Or
But it's
any
not it's not on we like this painting better or it represents a certain period of art better than anything else. That's not our role, and that's why we look at them, and that's why it should be pretty quick to go through them, because we're not analyzing whether it's meritorious in an aesthetic plane.
Yeah, I think on those bases, it doesn't take any time at all. I can do it, and I've always done it within a half an hour.
May I ask something since I'm new? So over here, do people send what they're going to bring, and that's how you check? Okay, that's how you check.
Yes, they send, we ask them to submit a photo of their artwork or as many as they'd like, and they're sent to us anonymously. And then we just look at them and say yes or no based on whether it fulfills the criteria that Will was talking about, in which case it would be a no. But if it doesn't, then it's a yes. So we're very open-ended. We've had some questions about children's art, for instance, and discussions about that. And then those other things. So and it's all done anonymously.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'd like to just know whether having the June show as more focused on the visual arts is something that we're going to keep doing, because that's how we started, was mostly visual art. People who come with crafts are welcome, but it's presented as an art show, not as a craft show.
I think we need to emphasize that in the flyer.
Yes, I think we do with the icons and saying art, but if you have other ideas, Kevin, that's great. And I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I think we may need to squeeze a sentence in there about having it specifically for visual art, because I noticed with the craft show, a lot of people did just submit, even though it was so blatantly a craft show, people did submit paintings and things like that. And it was hard to turn those people away because, at the end of the day, we want as many people as possible. But I think for this upcoming one, we need to specify somewhere in words that, you should be submitting something, like paintings or something visual along those lines, maybe.
Well, if I may say, I would put in the copy painting, sculptures, and photography. It is, if you just say that, then should take care of it.
But having said that, there have always been potters who've come and jewelry makers who've come, not as many. I mean, clearly it is designed to be that. So we could just see what kinds of submissions we get, put them aside, and then see if we only get 30 artists, then maybe we want to welcome as many crafters as apply. If we have 100 artists, visual artists, then it's a different question. But we could see, Kevin, you can draft something, stick it on the flyer, and send it out with the dates that we have to us, that is, if you'd like.
I mean, I'm sorry. I think if you say a show of painters, sculptors, and photographers, if others turn up, they turn up. But this way, you're emphasizing what it is that you're seeking. We've had at all the art shows, we've had a lot of crafters, and so they come even if we call it an art show. So
I think we can. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that we can't lose sight of the fact that crafters also bring a larger audience. Of people who can come, they can buy something for $5 or something like that, versus, a painting which is more expensive. Just we want to have a lot of people at the show. We want a lot of exhibitors, but we also want a lot of foot traffic. So
Well, that's why we take basically who applies, and we have had crafters. Also, I think it's flexible for me, a definition, but for visual artists, when they bring note cards, I mean, we could look at Trisha, for instance. She does beautiful paintings. She also does note cards. The note cards count as a craft for February, and the paintings count as visual arts for June. And so we have both, and a lot of visual artists have note cards, or a lot of them come with just note cards, and I think it's fine either way. But let's see, but we still need a date for submissions. So do you think the week after Mother's Day makes sense, Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe if we say Wednesday, then Kevin, would it be possible for you to send us those submissions by Friday at the end of your day so that we could look at them over the next few days, and letters could go out to those artists the following week, and then we'll have a second deadline a couple of weeks later?
Yes, I will get back to you and see if that fits in the schedule and everything. So I'll have to get back to you about submission dates.
Could I just bring up one thing about the participants? In two of the shows that I'm aware of now, including the last one, at least one person in each show who did not register, who did not apply, who was not vetted, came and participated in the show. I think we need a policy about that, because unfortunately in this era, if we don't know who these people are, it could, especially in an indoor setting, could create a hazard.
So Peggy, I remember one gentleman, he was aware of the show and he wanted to participate. He didn't go through the process as everyone else, but I remember talking to him. I took down his phone number, I took down his email, I took down everything. I even called his phone just to make sure it was a real phone. So I think something like that can work if there's enough space, if we're doing an indoor show. But you said there was multiple people.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Peg.
Not the last outdoor art show, but the one before that. There was this woman who was selling her paintings, but she hadn't registered. Nobody knew who she was, and she was a real problem person. She was setting up in the tree pits, and she didn't want to get out of them. And I'm just worried, if we don't know who these people are and they show up, are we creating a hazard? I mean,
Well, there's
maybe
also
not, but I think we have to consider that, there's a safety issue in this day and age.
There's also the problem that we send out letters that they agree to. They confirm their acceptance of the points we make in the letter, such as they need to stay till 4 o'clock and they're solely responsible for their own artwork. The community board takes no responsibility. And if they show up without having submitted and without executing or agreeing to those, sorry, using legal language, without agreeing to those terms, then it could be a problem. So I understand Kevin's generous heart and the generous heart of the community board, but I think Peggy's right, and we do need to have a policy. It's a safety thing, and I mean, everyone individually may be fine, but we just don't know. And I don't want people leaving at 2 p.m. if they're not selling, because it creates holes and it makes it look like
Right,
it's
right.
not.
Well, yeah, obviously I agree with that and safety. And I didn't know there were multiple. I just remember talking to one guy and he was very nice and he had brought all his equipment there as well. He had brought all his artwork there. I think he just didn't know there was this whole submissions process. But obviously if there were a lot of people coming in with this
No,
expectation.
I don't think think there were. I
Obviously
think it was.
cannot, let people in, but we can always, if there's someone like him who comes up with the expectation that he was going to present, I mean, exhibit at the show, and he's, very nice about it, he's willing to give his information, then, we maybe can make an exception for one or two people. But I do agree with, you can't have this, open door policy on the
Yeah,
day.
I mean, if we don't know in advance who these people are, I think we'd really be liable if a problem erupted. And the two, including the guy you're talking about, I think you may have left, but first of all, we had to go up to him and tell him, you've got to leave. He didn't want to leave. He left a mess. And the woman that was in the outdoor art show was really surly. And I mentioned before some of the problems with her. And I don't, I don't know. I myself, for what little it's worth, I would prefer that people not be in the show who haven't been vetted. And I just think it's a safety thing for all concerned. And it's not like we need more people. We're getting, tons of participants.
I
So,
think Peggy's right, Kevin, and I remember the guy saying something like he knew, but he just didn't. Someone had told him about it, but maybe I misinterpreted him. I I know that we all want to do the right thing for the community and the artists, but I think there may be questions of liability, and certainly there are questions of having to agree to what we've asked, and that includes leaving at a certain time, whether it's too early or too late. And I do remember, Peggy, that he was there after everyone else, and it did take him longer, and they did have an event coming up, so they needed to clear out the space and be able to sweep and be able to get it ready. And we don't want anyone making it difficult either for the volunteers from the board that are there, or the public, or the other artists, or people from the venue that are helping us. So I think overall it's probably a good policy to just say that if you don't submit, we can't let you in. And I don't think that would be an unusual thing either. I think that certainly.
no. I mean, Gracie Square Art Show, if you weren't approved and assigned a spot, you could not participate.
May I just like suggest something that on the flyer, if this can be added at the bottom, if you guys are deciding not to let anyone, like kind of at the last second, just show up and add, then put it in a bracket down below, that if because obviously these people are getting to know about this through the flyer, through the communication. So anywhere that it goes out, it's written in the bracket that only those that are registered would be allowed to come in. It's something that's obviously understood. But then, like this gentleman that you guys are speaking about, maybe he didn't understand that was the process. Maybe. So at least if it's written so clearly, people would know, no, that is, and you can say that, I don't know if you want to add that it's a legal requirement, or some procedure has to be completed beforehand. If you want to give that extra information, which really is never needed, but you can add it in the bracket so that people know if you just show up, sorry, you cannot be allowed to stay in, if that's what you guys are deciding.
Well, you could use you could use really simple language in the submissions request flyer, pre-approval required.
It's required.
What are we gonna do on no drop-ins?
Is mandatory, yeah.
Oh, that's a good
Pre-approval.
idea, Kevin.
Yeah.
No drop-in exhibitors permitted, or artists permitted, or something, or just no drop-in artists, whatever. I mean, that language sounds the shortest.
No unregistered artists or exhibitors, because we don't know what they're doing. No, non-registered will not be allowed.
Or
No,
you
no,
can write positive, only registered would be allowed at the venue.
well, let's see what Kevin comes up with, and then we could look at the flyer instead of spending more time. So you're going to check, just so I understand, Kevin, you're going to check on the date for submissions and how quickly, do you need to check on the date if Mother's Day, did you say it was the 12th, then that would mean Wednesday would be the 15th, that would be the 3rd. Wednesday. That would be full board. That would make it hard for the office to be able to send it out by Friday if you get them all on Wednesday. But we could still ask for them on Wednesday and then you could just send it out on Monday. Does that make sense? The submissions to the committee members?
Okay, so what would the submissions date be exactly?
We could make the submissions we could say Thursday that, I don't know, you tell me what makes it easier.
Alita, is it possible that he can go back to the document that you guys have all agreed to, the timeline, and then he'll give you guys the date that lines up with what everybody's agreed to previously, and
Yeah.
then we can negotiate sort of what makes the most sense off of that.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. And you don't have to rush to do that, Kevin. Like, let's say by next week, if that makes sense. Somehow
Yeah,
these
so-
just
yeah,
figured out.
because I've checked the
That's
one
okay.
on the baseline, and then we'll compare it to the one you gave me, and we'll just meet in the middle or something.
Yeah, and taking into account holidays and things, so that's fine.
Maybe I can put up the flyer, the submissions flyer for the last outdoor show, and you guys can let me know what you think about any
Okay.
change. Right now, just just right off the bat.
Okay. We already say paintings, photography, and crafts.
Yeah, if you want just this to be an art show, maybe take out the word crafts and put paintings, photography, and sculpture.
Yeah,
If
we
you
could do
want.
that.
Okay.
And I think if we could maybe enlarge the font for the spring outdoor art show
Yeah.
and maybe reduce it for Community Board 8 Manhattan presents. I don't know,
Or
the way we did it the way we did it for February, I think was good, but
or the date can be a little smaller if you want to bring the spring outdoor art show bigger.
yeah.
I would just say over here somewhere you should write that only those that, kind of your pre-approval, like the line over here should be mentioned somewhere.
Like pre-approval required.
Is mandatory. Yeah, is mandatory.
Is June 22nd still spring or is it summer?
Summer.
It's
You have to change that.
But you know what, it's so on the cusp that people think summer maybe after July 4th, that starts the season in some places. In some places it's Memorial Day starts the summer season.
Why don't we leave off spring?
Yeah, just outdoor art show.
Yeah.
So then you can increase the size as well easily.
But I also have to just say, if nobody objects, but we could see it when it looks like that. I kind of like the no drop-ins. I think it is the pre-approval sounds like maybe they need to be pre-approved to apply. It feels a little bit more ambiguous than just no drop-ins permitted or something like that. But we could see what that looks like. And I think the palette and the easel and the message that it's visual arts.
Can we take out a few words to make it a little snappier? Take out the word featuring and just say paintings, photography, and sculpture. And instead of please submit, just submit an image. Make it less wordy as possible so it's easier to read and I'm more eye-catching.
Also, do we need a camera or a lens?
That's the Instagram logo, the social media logo.
We don't actually need that though.
No, but we have an easel and we have a palette. So those are two art things. Should we?
That's just for social media, Rita, to show that it's on social media. It also encourages artists to hopefully use their own social media, but I think it just shows that we have this social media presence.
What do we have to do to get patch?
I don't know.
That's
I
very
think
hard,
you did a good job.
but
Well,
you,
that's
We did put a notice, well, several notices in the events section.
That was really good. Could you be in charge of that for the spring?
Yeah.
Oh, but you won't be here.
No, I
Oh.
can do it ahead of time. Oh,
Okay.
wait, oh, yes, I will. I'll be back on the 11th. Yeah, sure. I can.
Okay. And if you could do it for the submissions as well as the actual attendance, I think that would be good too.
Yeah.
So we just want to get that distributed as widely as possible. This year, Gail Brewer put it in for February. She put it in her newsletter. I don't know if that brought people in or not, but I think the wider the publicity, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I just think that the flyer has to be a little less wordy though, in order to.
Peggy, let me do all the changes we agreed on earlier, and then I'll send it to you guys, and
Yeah.
let me know if there's any specific words that you want to cut out to make it, perhaps look a bit more minimal or something.
Yeah, a little, it snaps it up when it's, the fewer the words, the snappier they are. And so,
Is there any other feedback? I don't know, either from any members of the public who happen to be at the art show, Liz or Estelle or TJ, if you have any feedback about the craft show before we move on to other potential events or
I thought
sponsorship?
it was terrific. I thought you did a great job. I happened to be up in Toronto with a family member who's not doing well, so I'm just listening in. But I thought you did a terrific job. I told Kevin I'm happy to put it out on my newsletter, which has about 1,100 people who subscribe. So I'm happy to do that, and I'm here to do whatever I can.
Thank you, Todd.
So, yeah.
And I hope your family member recovers or quickly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no,
Possible.
it's the end.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah,
At least
yeah,
it's
but we're all here together. Thank you.
That's good.
You-
And Estelle or Liz, if you have any comments about the show, and if not, that's okay too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very good. I bought a couple of things. So, no, I thought it was very good, and it was much larger than the last one, so,
Yeah,
which is, good. So,
it was nice that you showed the hat. That's a favorite with my kids, that dealer.
okay.
Liz, do you advertise or give Patch? Do you have any connection to Patch, the Upper East Side Patch?
Not that I know of. There a lot of these publications are just really hard to, get hold of, and they're always, they're looking for a story, and if it doesn't come across as a story, they're just uncovered.
Do you think that maybe we should try to have a meeting with them and have a conversation and ask them what they need, or
Sure. I mean, I think if you can call them up and just, tell them what you want.
If you write
It
anything
never
up, I
hurts.
deal with Peter Senzimichi often. So if you want to write something up, I can always put it together and send to him.
Thank
he
you.
has covered our shows in the past, which makes it difficult to get them to do it again. You need an angle. You need a fresh angle. And if you don't have one, they're going to say, well, we've already covered that in the past. So the task is to come up with an angle.
I don't know if we need a story as much as we need to have the poster on.
You can submit the poster to Patch Events beforehand. The
Right.
story they won't do until after, unless and they will want to do the story after as well. So it might not be guaranteed.
But again, unless you have a fresh angle for them, it's very hard to get more coverage.
What about New York Link?
Oh, they posted on that, Rita. They put it on there. I'm always excited when I see they do both the artist submissions and the general public, please come, post flyers on there.
I mean, there could be an angle around if the students are singing or if there's some special event we have with the performers in the summertime or something like that, could possibly interest them.
Do we know when school ends? Because that might be an issue for getting JREC to come back. Does someone have a public school calendar?
But
I-
I don't, but I think the 22nd is pretty early to end.
I
June
don't
20
know. I'll reach out to the people I know at JREC and in the musical theater department. Well, I think they're new people, their kids graduated, but I'll see what we can find out about that.
So I see on the 2024-2025 school year calendar that June 26th is the last day of school.
Yeah,
Oh.
so
Okay, good.
well,
So they're still
well,
here.
well, we'll have to see if they're willing to do a performance that previous weekend. Okay, let's I think we'll get the dates from Kevin. We have a date for the show right now. I'll find out if there's anything about performances. I'll email everyone because we should talk about at some point music. Let's talk about some other things. So I've been talking to Mick Malamphy, who's the creative director at the Origin Theatre Company, whose mission is to bring in plays from Ireland or new European playwrights, about, if not actually working with either another play reading or a performance at one of the schools in terms of sponsoring. They do both a Bloomsday to celebrate James Joyce and Ulysses, and they also do, and they want to make the Upper East Side. Right now, they actually are there. They do a lot of work out of 59 East 59th Street, which is right at our southern border, but they really want to establish a home on the Upper East Side. And if they did something once before at Ryan's daughter's pub upstairs where there was no cover charge, and we were able to sponsor that. So there might be something interesting. I've also spoken to the new director, brand new as of February 1st, of the, I know I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's basically something like the Irish American Historic Society, which is on Fifth Avenue, right across the street from the Met. And they want to do a lot of cultural programming. So maybe it's possible to do some co-sponsorships, which are certainly much less work for everybody, but it puts the idea of the community board, more art out in the public, and presents more of an opportunity to get people interested in other things that the community board is doing. So I don't know, whatever you guys think about that.
Should we have now or sometime soon a general discussion about what we want to be doing, or, you know, how many programs we want, or what, you know, our agenda should be for the year before we fill in blanks, you know, like,
Yeah, and I was just raising it. We have future events on the agenda for now, but we don't have anything concrete to talk about specifically. The other thing is, it's not, if we are able to put, and I know that there are rules, I just don't remember what they are. I think they have to do with ticket charges and things like that. If we're able to say CB8 Arts Committee presents or sponsors that, I don't know, to me, that's not a bad look. It's a good thing, and it supports everything else that we're doing. And the idea that the community board can reach people in ways other than contentious government debates or debates about government policy. So I don't have anything specific. If I know of specific things, we could certainly arrange a meeting. Peggy, did you want to say something?
no, I think that's really a selling point. That's really excellent point. I just think maybe at some point before too long, we could have a meeting that's looking at how much programming we want to do and what that would or could possibly entail. So then we could fill in the blanks, or, you know.
Maybe
So-
there's
Sorry, Alita, I just wanted to confirm that what you're saying is that something that's already happening in the community, we join hands with that. Is that what you were saying?
That's one of the
What are
things.
the items?
That's something with the Irish American Historic Society and possibly Origin Theater.
And they have precise dates that they are looking
No,
at?
no, they haven't. There's a brand new director. I mean, she just started on February 1st of the Irish American. They were kind of not having much of a public presence for a bunch of years, but now I think she comes in with a lot of ambition about doing a lot of different cultural programming. I think primarily focused on Irish American events or Irish American type cultural events, but also maybe expanding it to certain other or some other areas of interest to the Upper East Side or to New York City as a whole. There are a few already venues that do Irish things, but I think they want to have a place in that. And there are other so that might be a possibility. I haven't sat down with her yet to see what she's thinking, but there's nothing concrete. And the same with Mick. He and I are supposed to talk this week and see what's up. I know he's up to his head in the First Irish or Irish First Festival. It's a month-long programming starting at the end of March where they put on tons of things. So I think it would be sometime after that. And maybe there's an opportunity to think about something that we might be able to do in the fall with one of them or some other entity or something else on our own.
I have a suggestion. 100 years ago, when Scott Stringer was or president, was he, or the comptroller, or whatever, there was something that, and he got to use the auditorium at the Metropolitan Museum. The reason I'm saying that one because it's in our district versus the auditorium at the old B. Altman and Company, which is now City CUNY, and it's a great auditorium. I also attended another Scott Stringer thing there. We may need Mark Levine to help us. There are no tickets that are sold. There's no money involved. There are no assigned seats. It's, first come, first serve. But it is a cultural thing that's in a cultural place. So it may work.
That's a great point, and that's certainly a very valuable venue if that were possible.
But if I may interrupt, we don't need Mark Levine. I've had 2 events at the Met, community board events there.
That was not the auditorium, though, which is a place that you can't get into unless they open the doors. And
well, this had an attendance of
no,
over,
it's a great. It is an auditorium with seats and everything. It's banked. It has a stage, so on and so forth.
well, all I'm saying is you don't need Mark Levine. We can just call up and say, could you do this? And they'll either do it or they won't. But both times that I asked for it, they said yes.
Well, let's find something to put on there and or present there or sponsor there, and then we could figure that out. But I think that would be really good. And I know that you've done that, Peggy. I was at least one of them, and those are good.
I was too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, okay, so we could talk when there's something more concrete about what the possibilities are, given the restrictions on community boards or other government entities, and to see what there is that we could work with. I also had in mind some visual arts projects. Will, do you or Kevin, do you know anything, that new law about art on construction fences? Have you seen it? Has that been enacted? I mean, it was a new rule at the DOB. Has that become effective? Do we know anything about that in this neighborhood?
I remember seeing that news. I don't know if it was enacted. I can research that and follow up with you. What were you thinking in terms of that?
Well, I'm just wondering, I had spoken to Julie Menon a while ago because she got some art put on one of the construction fences from schools. It was something that Excel had been interested in doing years ago. But then the DOB came up with a new rule where and this came up at a previous meeting because I remember Liz's comment about being able to opt out because of financial concerns. And so there was an opt-out provision, but basically, if my memory is correct, the rule was that when you have a construction fence, you need to put some art on it unless you opt out. And it could either be from pre-approved art by the DOB or by new artists that the owner wants
Right.
to.
So I think what you're talking about is called City Canvas, right?
Yes,
So
yes, something.
became effective on September 1st, 2023.
Do
And
we,
like you said, yeah, there's a whole process step by step to get your art approved, and then you can place it on these construction sites.
and there's some pre-approved, I think, by the DOB. Do you know, is there a list of sites that have that? Do we know
Um,
whether it's in our neighborhood or not?
I can try to find that for you, and then I can get back to you with that.
There's at
Uh,
least one in our neighborhood because we got notified about it.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'm just curious about that because there is actually on Second Avenue in the 70s a great image on the side of a building, or it's large, but it's a remnant of the old advertising that was painted on the bricks that you never see once the building comes up, but the building came down, and so it's visible there. And then there's, of course, advertising that's been put on the green fence around it. It's just an interesting juxtaposition of new and old. But so I talked to Julie about that before this new rule came into effect about trying to work with schools, and maybe that's still possible to generate some interest with art teachers at schools to reach out potentially to developers or to the DOB and see what that is like in terms of working with students. And then I had something else in mind also that I
I
talked
mean,
to.
we do have a youth education and libraries committee, so we can always do a joint meeting in which all the chairs of the arts committee and yourself and the co-chairs of that committee, you can introduce this city canvas project. That's my best suggestion.
That's a
I
great
can
idea.
help. I can help when you guys like kind of finalize that with schools, like getting it to the schools because I know people in different schools.
That's great. And you could well, if they're high school schools, we could um generate some interest in art potentially as well. Okay, well,
I
I
know
think
many high schools. You could just guide me what exactly, and I could help.
okay.
I'm just learning right now from all of you. So yeah, with time we'll
Good,
get more active
good,
once I
good, good.
understand how you guys are working this. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you again for your help at the craft show. It's really hard with all of those crafters in such a large venue and everyone coming in and anxious to get spaces to do this. So all the volunteers, all the help is really essential to getting this done as
No, pleasure is all mine. And I had given my name to join the art committee because I think you guys are doing phenomenal work.
thank
So yeah,
you.
it's
Yes,
fun, phenomenal work.
good. Give your name. We could always use
I
more
have.
ideas and good. Okay. So then you're officially a member?
I don't know, Kevin, am I?
Yeah,
I
I
did
mean, I
write.
don't
I
know.
guess soon I will be, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we would say no.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Please don't
You
say
know,
no.
unlike other community boards where people are assigned to committees, this one is really good about letting people join as many as they'd like and on as many different topics as they like. So that's great
I
for
guess
us.
if you want to make it official at some point, once we finish organizing all of that, we'll shoot you an email and then you're officially part of the committee.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Um,
But
it's
I
on
have
the
filled out the
website.
form. I did fill out the form that was sent to all of us, asking that I want to join this committee. I think it's a very fun committee, so I want to be with you guys.
Yeah,
Fun.
it's nice when it's not contentious. It's really good and it brings joy to people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will continue my conversations with Mick and with Elizabeth at the Irish American Society, and then we'll see where it goes.
May I just suggest one idea, just throwing it out? And I think it's coming from what Peggy mentioned and Rita mentioned, that if we have a location, since we have all of these schools in our area, so many schools, and there are many amazing music teachers and directors, right? Like in our own area. And I know some of them. So maybe we can ask them, not their students, but they themselves, if they would like to perform. Not sure if they would want to, but if they do, even if like 2 or 3 or 4 of them say yes, that would be really nice, right? Like an evening that they could give. And that would also, and we can ask them, their leverage would be that they can give us their cards and we can publicize their names and contacts. That way, neighbors who are coming to listen to them would also like kind of, they would form their contacts with those neighbors, and they can later on be taken as coaches by those neighbors for their own children, right? So I mean, it's like we always have to give them something as well, because these are accomplished pianists and violinists.
Yeah, if they were interested, I think an evening of music, an afternoon of music is a great thing. It doesn't have to certainly be a commitment to only visual crafts or arts. I think the idea we've talked about battles of the bands in the past, but this sounds like a little bit easier to organize.
Yeah, as long as it's an indoor, I think, location for it to be really effective, like what Rita was mentioning. Like a location like that, I'm sure they would all love to perform in there.
Yeah, oh, I think we do have access to the auditorium at JREC. I mean, it's upstairs, so that's kind of a thing. And for schools, it's always a security issue if it's after hours. And we might possibly also have at Wagner, maybe some of the private schools. I don't know, but that's something that we could talk about maybe for the fall, so that we're evenly divided through the year and always on people's radar and not making too much work for the community board, including
I was
us.
just thinking, since we are like, kind of this committee, so music would be another one that we could have an evening of music, and that's totally different art that's coming into our group.
Yeah, no, music is certainly good and beloved. So that's nice. And we don't have any kind of concert venues here or theaters here, really. So that's good. In terms of having the music, I meant. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to discuss? Okay. I'm so glad everyone was here for this discussion. Kevin, thank you for putting up the schedule. We'll work with that, and we'll hear from you about dates. Thank you for working on the flyer in the meantime. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Good, thank you. And I see
Yeah.
Peggy Sahar have seconded, so thank you very much. And thanks to you, Will and Kevin. And in terms of expertise for the ideas of parameters for community board engagement with the arts, I think that's always really helpful. Okay, thank you, and good night.
Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.